Hi guys, it's Anne Marie. Today we are doing cleanup embellishments number 2. So basically, when my desk is really messy, I sit down and I clean it off and I rescue anything that I can, turning it into something usable, not leaving it as trash, or not just giving up on it and throwing it away. So that's what I'm doing today. I've done this once before, and I'll put a link, a little video card up at the top here to the cleanup embellishments number 1. There'll probably be a link at the end to a playlist that this goes on to. So you see me basically starting with a pile of scraps. These are all scraps from the same project, which was a process video for a scrapbook generation kit. Well, the project was a layout from a scrapbook generation kit. And there is a process video, which I will also link right here. And I'm just trimming every little scrap I can down that's useful. Some of these are like the name of the line. That one says Our Family, and it just makes a cute little fishtail banner. A couple of these I forgot that I did this to, and I ended up using them for something else, but that's okay. They still got used, so that's what's important. So I'm going to cut out a bunch of these, and then I just slide one end into a fishtail banner punch, and that's how I get that little notch cut out there. Then I'm also going to cut up this damask pattern. So a lot of this is on, you'll see the actual paper border strips that are left over after you cut off the 12 by 12 part. But I have a ton of that black and cream damask paper, and so you're going to see a lot of tiny strips and rectangles come from that as we go. I'm also going to cut out these kind of boxes in some of the leftover pattern paper. These were used in the scrapbook generation kit. I used a few from the sheet of paper already, and I'm going to do what they did, which is just cut on these straight lines surrounding the quotes. And then if there's a few floral details that overlap, I'll cut those out too, but I'm not going to go all the way around the scroll work around each one. I wouldn't personally like the look of that. I wouldn't trust myself to do it cleanly either. And so it's much easier to just follow those straight lines. And I do end up with even more little black and cream damask strips that way too. All right, so now I have a little stack of those kind of quote cards. I can use them in place of cut apart cards or to kind of build embellishments off of on a layout, or I can use them as like the focal sentiment, an image on a card. And I'm left with a lot of these kind of random scraps. And so what you're going to see me do, the basic process, I trim them all down to be a rectangle of some size, and then I'm notching the ends. And that's what I'm doing with most of them. But you'll also notice I have my label punch out, and I'm going to use that for some here in a minute. So I fished a black scrap out of my scrap bag, and I try to keep my scraps all as rectangles or squares so that they don't snag on each other and everything. So that was already that size. And at first I went to go cut that label out immediately, but then I decided, you know what? I'm going to save myself some work and I'm going to stick them all down first and then trim them out in one go. So essentially, I'm going to continue using my fishtail banner and my label punch, but I'm also, there's a few that I know won't fit, so I punched some hearts out of those. And then I'm moving on to fussy cutting some butterflies. These are still scraps from the same scrapbook generation kit. So these are really like the gift that keeps on giving, because there's just so much more I can do with the rest of these. I can get a lot of cards out of this. I can build a lot of embellishments on future layouts, and they're not going to cost me a dime because this is all just left over from a kit that I already feel like I got a good value out of. So just another reason to love them. All right, so I've set all that aside and I'm working now on a gorgeous large die cut piece that a peep friend gave me at the end of a crop. She was going home and for whatever reason didn't want to take a big stack of die cut papers and embellishments home with her, and offered them to me, and I, of course, said yes. I don't have a lot of patience for cutting this type of thing out on my silhouette. Um, if you notice, and we'll talk about this in just a second, but there's a lot of like white nick marks because you have to use a thin cardstock to cut really intricate things out on your electronic cutters. But those thinner cardstocks tend to not be solid core, and it's, I don't know. I always, my blade always nicks, like gets stuck in a nick and then just ruins the whole thing. Like I have very little patience for intricate files. So I was excited to get this, but I am going to alter how I use it. So I just feel like there's a lot of kind of damage done to the die cut. So I'm just cutting out 3 rosettes. And now I'm going in with a Sharpie and I'm just covering all those places that were nicked by the blade as it cut it out, so that you don't see any white when I back it with pattern paper. You're just going to see, the black outline that you want to see. All right, so I've kind of repaired all of those and now it's time to back them with paper. So I'm going to use this pink scrap that I had, and then that green right there is actually the back from the butterfly paper. So I had a few little pieces of the butterfly paper with not enough butterfly and decided to use that to back the leaves. And then for these really intricate die cuts like that, I just showed a bottle of Elmer's spray adhesive. That's what I prefer to do with really intricate die cuts. I use spray adhesive because it's A, quick, and I'm impatient. B, it covers everything in one shot. It's not like liquid glue where you'd have to sit there and be very finicky and patient, which I can see being a very nice mindfulness type activity. But the other part of that is there's really no world where some of that glue wouldn't squish out. And so then I'd have to really just rely on my Ranger matte multi-medium. And I just don't have enough of that, and I don't have it in a fine tip bottle. So for me, the solution was spray adhesive. And I knew I had that green, but I did pull the kind of magenta out of my scraps. So now I've given those a shot again of spray adhesive, and I'm backing them with the green scraps. And so there's the finished little rosette. I'm going to end up with 3 of those. And here I'm just taking the Sharpie and I'm going around the edges really carefully. You could do this, with an ink pad, a black ink pad, or a dauber. That would probably be safer, honestly. And not just like, oh, I might accidentally scribble across the embellishment, which I would totally do, by the way. I'm surprised I was this brave. But also, there's been some concerns or questions about the acid-free status of Sharpies. I've heard mixed things over the years, so I'm never clear on if they are or not. So, you may not want that touching your pictures. In general, I'm not that concerned about acid-free things. This world is temporary, and so are my scrapbooks. And I'm mostly doing this to have fun. All right, so next up, these are some geometric heart die cuts. I found these and like the die cut things when I was cleaning out my cardstock. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. And so I had set them aside because I knew I wanted to do something with them. They weren't getting used being in my cardstock. So I pulled them out to turn them into embellishments. And what I'm doing now is just fishing through my scraps for any interesting patterns that I think might be fun to use to back the hearts. And what I ended up doing was I pretty much only used solid color or solid scraps. I'm kind of wishing that I had used maybe some tone-on-tone patterns, but I think I was trying to keep it really flexible for, to be able to use it on any layout. And it'd be easier to find pattern paper to go with solid color embellishments, but I don't know. At least one of the cards, I end up backing each individual triangle with a different thing. And I guess I might be able to match it with like a multicolor stripe, right? But I don't know. Oh well, it's fine. So I'm just going over all of them with a Sharpie to touch up any white spots. So I've gone over all of them with a Sharpie, and now it's time to start backing each little thing. So I'm pulling out, the solid color pieces I wanted to use for the bigger heart, making sure that I like the colors and the way they go together. So I'm pretty sure I did the same thing here. I spray painted. I sprayed the back with adhesive. And so now I'm just kind of working quickly to stick the die cut down and secure the different pieces. Of course, there's there's no way that you could do all of the triangles in one go. So I kind of went for a four corners approach here, and I'm just rough cutting, and then I'm going to go get more adhesive sprayed on the back. So I tried really hard to like get a good mix, like do different colors each time, but I don't know, that ended up kind of backfiring me. Maybe I should have planned it out better beforehand. I don't know. But anyway, so I took that die cut out and I put spray adhesive on the back again, and then you notice that purple goes behind an empty triangle, but also behind the green triangle. And so that's what is going to be happening here. I'm going to be building up layers just because it's easier. Embellishments like this, I'll often pop up with foam tape anyway. So it's okay if it's a little thick. So I'm getting in there. I'm to the point where I am using my Ranger multi-matte because I think I was just getting tired of getting up and there was less to do, less area to cover. And this is where I realized I was going to have some squares touch each other with similar colors, which I had been trying to avoid that. But it's just going to get to a point where if I want to use, a scattered variety of colors, then some of them might have to touch. Some of them might not be so scattered, even if I can get the variety in there. So this is just a lot of problem solving, and I'm just going one thing at a time. And there I'm using my paper piercing tool and the bone folder to really squish out any extra glue and scrape it up with that paper piercer. So I'm almost done. I'm cutting it out. And this is where I realize that, something's going to repeat. Or there's going to be like an extra one somewhere. I'm kind of wishing now that maybe I could have gotten just one big piece and covered the whole thing because it would be a little smoother, but c'est la vie. It was still gorgeous. And I decided I was not patient enough to continue that process with each heart embellishment, so I backed the majority of them with solid paper. I think I did one with a pattern paper. And now I'm cutting out my labels. Basically, they sat there until I got my desk all cleaned off and I knew that I'd used up all the labels that I had, or all the scraps that I had. And so I've used the labels, I've used this damask paper for the labels, for the hearts, and all these tons of fishtail banners. So now I'm going to do something with the fishtail banners. I could just leave them as is, but that's a lot of fishtail banners in a lot of different sizes. I don't think I'm ever going to want to do a banner of that formal of a print in such an informal way, if that makes sense. Like, it's more whimsical to create a banner of mixed sizes and shapes. And that's not a whimsical print, that's an elegant print. So I want to do something a little more structured with them while still getting some use out of them. So enter my tag dies. I've cut out different sizes of tags. I think it's just like a large and a small. Yeah, shipping tags. Oh, large, medium, and small. That's right. And this is where I started by just hanging part of it, right? And then I would trim it. And I'm thinking, well, that would be a cute little embellishment home or gift tag. But man, that's going to make a lot of tags, right? And then I started thinking, what if I want to tuck that tag underneath the left side of an element? I'm going to cover up the fishtail banner part, and then that's going to be useless. What can I do to kind of address that so that I could use it with the fishtail facing either way? And that's where I decided to try this. So I did this first one with 2 separate fishtails, but they're each going a different direction. And then I went back and did that with these 2. But eventually I figure out I don't have to cut anything. I just have to fold these around the edge of the tag and glue them down on both sides. So that's what you're going to see me do here in a second. I also decided just having the one, I think I might have left a set like that, but I decided to try one with a bunch. I know I just got finished saying like doing banners of all the different sizes and shapes would be too weird, but this for some reason, I think putting it on the tag just made it more structured, and I liked that. So here's the overall, I don't know, embellishment haul that I have. I've got the 3 rosettes. I've got a ton of little fussy cut delicate butterflies. Got plenty of those fishtail banners too. And some beautiful hearts. Then I have lots of labels that I can use on cards or as embellishments. And then I have these tags, and I think I'll flip one over. Yeah. There you go. You can kind of get more of a sense of what I'm talking about. I just wrapped the banners around the tag and glued them on both sides. And that way they're useful no matter which way I end up using them on a card or layout. And I did one set with multiple and one set with just one. Just for different looks. Those are the quote cards I ended up with. And then all of the geometric hearts. And I'll just put all of these away. I have iris containers that are, just for butterflies, and one that's just for flowers, one that's just for hearts, one that's just for labels. So I'll put those away, and then they'll be there when I need them. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. Have a great, week, night, month. I'll see you when I see you. Bye.